Sokoto to Port Harcourt, Enugu to Nigeria, to bring you news and information that will make your day. We are news, we are TV.
A lovely evening to you. The news update on 24 News Radio and Television. My name is Grace Nwafo. President Bola Tinubu has urged Nigerian personal income tax collector that estimates how much would be forms his administration recently signed into law. Account later allows citizens to compare their estimated tax on the forms with current rate and ensure a clear understanding of the impact. Tinubu said the reforms, which take effect from January 2026, are intended to establish a fair tax system, one that never punishes poverty or waste. The federal government has set a target of reaching 20 million children. The homegrown school feeding program, describing it as both and the national G. Vice President Kashim Shettima announced this at the National Policy Forum on the institutionalization and implementation of the Renewed Hope National Homegrown School Feeding Program held in Abuja. The forum was hosted by the Presidential Committee on Inclusion in collaboration with Action Aid Nigeria and other stakeholders, represented by the Special Advisor to the President on Economic Affairs, Office of the Vice President, Dr. Kolade Shettima, said the expansion under President Bola Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda was the boldest yet in the history of the intervention. He explained that the program, relaunched earlier this year, is designed to improve school enrollment and learning outcomes while creating a guaranteed daily market for women entrepreneurs. He urged development partners, private investors, and with the federal government vision, saying the success of the scheme would be measured not just in hunger-free classrooms, but also safer, more resilient communities. The Independent National Electoral Commission to visit designated registration centers for corrections of personal details and replacement of lost or damaged permanent voter cards. The resident electoral commissioner in Bauchi State, Umar Ibrahim, made the call during a press briefing. He explained that as part of preparations for the 2027 general election, resumed the continuous registration exercise. According to him, the exercise will cover fresh registrations for new voters, correction of personal details such as gender or addresses, replacement of lost, defaced, or damaged PVCs, transfer of voter registration from one location to another within or across states, as well as the collection of uncollected to CVR across all local government areas in the state. Ibrahim, the online pre-registration commenced on Monday, August 18, 2025. Physical registration will officially begin on Monday, August 25, 2025, at designated centers across Bauchi State. The REC noted that while the online portal is available 24/cvr.inecnigeria.org Physical registration will take place at the INEC State Office in Bauchi and at the 20 INEC local government offices between 9 o'clock a.m. and 3 o'clock p.m. on weekdays, excluding public holidays. He added that the preliminary register of voters would be displayed quarterly for public scrutiny to allow claims, objections, and corrections to ensure that only eligible voters remain on the final register. He warned that the Commission would not tolerate multiple or underage registration or collection of PVCs by proxy or obstruction of duties, stressing that such offences attract stiff penalties under the Electoral Act. Staff Union of Polytechnics has threatened to embark on if the federal government fails to demand at the expiration of a 21-day coordinator of ASUP Zone B, Innocent, during a press briefing in Bauchi, stressing the resolution of its national headquarters. SIMG explained that the ultimatum issued after an emergency council meeting held on August in Abuja was born out of the government's failure to address pressing issues threatening the survival of the state. The pending issues to include non-release of circulars by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission to cover peculiar academic allowances, non-payment of arrears of the 35% salary review, and non-implementation of the review in state-owned polytechnics. Further grievances, he said, include the non-establishment of a dedicated commission for polytechnics, non-release of promotion arrears, non-implementation of promotions in state-owned polytechnics, the stalled renegotiation of the 2010 ASUP-FGN agreement, and the refusal of some states to domesticate the Federal Polytechnics Act. He also decried the continued dichotomy against HND holders in public service, non-release of Conti's 15 arrears, militarization of campuses, and undue interference in union activities, particularly at the Federal Polytechnic, Nekede. This is still the news update on 24 News Radio and Television. Still to come are news from the foreign scene and the world of sports. Stay with us. Welcome back. Glad to know that you're still there. If you're just joining us, this is the news update on 24 News Radio and Television. Over now to the foreign scene. At least 5 bodies, including children, exhumed on Kenya's coast are linked to an infamous starvation cult that came to light in 2023. More than 400 people died in one of the world's worst cult-related tragedies, which became known as the Shakahola Forest Massacre, discovered inland from the Indian Ocean town of Malindi. The case rocked the country and made headlines globally, with self-proclaimed pastor Paul Mackenzie facing trial in the coastal city of Mombasa. He has pleaded not guilty to multiple counts of manslaughter. The Director of Criminal Investigations, Officer Robert King, told newsmen that officers had excavated at least 27 sites further along the coast from Shakahola at the 5-acre site near Binzaro village in Kilifi County's Chakama area. King said that the majority of the remains were in a state of advanced decomposition, indicating they had been in the ground for over a year. Although he said one may have been buried as recently as 7 to 8 months ago. King added that 11 people have been taken into custody, although 3 of them are being treated as victims. The fresh discoveries comes after a Mombasa court earlier this month adjourned the ongoing case of the Shakahola preacher Mackenzie, citing the discovery of new evidence. Shakahola led the government to move towards tighter control of fringe religious groups after accusations that it could have prevented the death. Efforts to regulate religion in the majority Christian country have been fiercely opposed in the past as undermining constitutional guarantees of the division between church and the state. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said there was no meeting planned between the Russian and Ukrainian president, despite U.S. attempt to organize the summit. U.S. President Donald Trump raised expectations for a swift summit between the leaders by saying they have both agreed to meet after he received President Volodymyr Zelensky with European allies in the White House. Lavrov told newsmen that Russian President Vladimir Putin was ready to meet Zelensky when the agenda would be ready for a summit, adding that it was not ready at all. Lavrov earlier this week slammed the White House meeting as a clumsy attempt by Europeans to change the U.S. leader's position on Ukraine, agreed with Putin at a summit in Alaska last week, and on Friday he dashed hopes for a Putin-Zelensky meeting to resolve the conflict, now in its fourth meeting list claims. And from the world of sports, Tottenham head coach Thomas Frank has made it clear the club is only interested in signing players fully committed to joining them following the collapse of a move for Crystal Palace star Eberechi Eze. Eze had been close to a switch to Spurs earlier this week, but is now set to join Arsenal in a €67.5 million deal after the Gunners reached an agreement with the 27-year-old and Crystal Palace. According to reports, the playmaker was omitted from Palace Europa Conference League win against Fredrikstad on Thursday, signaling his imminent departure. It is the second blow Spurs have suffered this summer, with Morgan Gibbs-White opting to sign a new contract at Nottingham Forest after Tottenham had activated a release clause in his previous deal. That is a wrap on the news update on 24 News Radio and Television. Stay tuned for more programs to be coming your way. My name is Grace Mwafo. Have a lovely evening.
From Abuja to Lagos, Sokoto to Port Harcourt, Lorry, all across Nigeria, and information that will make your day. We are news. We are 24 News Radio TV.